Ceann Comhairle, one of the reasons that Irish independence succeeded was because that we were able to establish an independent police force very quickly after we got independence, and that police force secured the support and consent of the Irish public who it policed. That was a major achievement of the state, and if you look at other countries that gained their independence, sometimes they didn't manage to transfer power to a police force that operated in a non-partisan manner. And Garda Síochána did that. We're now coming towards the centenary of Garda Síochána. I think we also need to recognise that the new force, when it was established, that it inherited very much of the procedures that were in place in the RIC and the Dublin Metropolitan Police. The old districts were always the form upon which policing was to be carried out. I welcome the fact that the legislation we're discussing today is going to change that, because there's no doubt but that the procedures and the structures within Garda Síochána do require reform. We saw that the Commission on the Future of Policing recommended a new operating model for Garda Síochána. We saw that the Garda Inspectorate recommended a new structure for Garda Síochána, and I'm pleased to say that back in 2019 the Commissioner recognised that and announced the new operating model. For too long we've seen situations in Garda districts and Garda stations where superintendents' time are taken up filling out forms or signing documents or have been forced to fulfil statutory obligations that were placed on them by legislation that the Oireachtas has enacted. For instance, when you look at the schedule to this Act, you'll see that the purpose of the legislation we're enacting is to transfer responsibility away from superintendents in districts to other either inspectors or superintendents who don't have to be from that district. I welcome that, but I think we need to recognise what's the purpose that we are doing this. What's the reason why the Garda Commissioner is recommending that we implement and introduce a new Garda operating model? The reason is so that we can get more Gardaí out on the streets. The reason is so that Garda policing can be done in a much more efficient and effective way. Obviously, there's a limited amount of Gardaí that we can hire at any one particular time. Everyone in this House would like to see much higher numbers within Garda Síochána. But we also need to recognise that we have a responsibility to try to ensure that the Gardaí that we have are used more efficiently. And I think all of us in this House recognise and see the importance of community policing, the community Garda out in our community. But in order to see more of that, we need to change the operating model so that much more members of the force can be out on the streets. Listen, I represent an inner city part of Dublin and I would really like to see more Gardaí out in the streets. I know sometimes the level of crime can be represented as being higher than it is. But there is a problem in Dublin at present with antisocial behaviour and crime. It may be as a consequence of the pandemic and I suppose the limitations that were imposed upon people. But what the public want to see and what I want to see and what every member of this House wants to see is more Gardaí out on the street engaging in community policing. The presence of Gardaí on our streets has a much more effective impact than simply deterring criminals from committing crimes. It also has the impact of making people in the society feel much safer, and I think that's something that we all seek to ensure occurs in the future. So listen, I welcome the legislation. I also will hope to play a part at committee stage, but I think it's an important part of the reform process of Garda Síochána that has been recommended now for nearly 5 years. Thank you,
Thank you, Deputy O'Callaghan.